Okay, please discuss with your group member situation in which you have employed various source of power and influence referenced by Hackman and Johnson. Work to tie those experiences to your role as a leader or as a follower. Finally, discuss ways in which culture differences may influence the way we interact with leaders and employ power. Does anybody want to go first? You want me to go first again? Is that fine?
Yeah, you can start.
Right. Cool. Okay, so I was thinking about, I've mentioned I coach girls basketball with my daughters. And, you know, I use both a transactional and transformational leadership with that. I feel like with my team, it's more transactional. You know, I use cohesive power, and you know, if I'm teaching something or I have to keep them disciplined as far as staying in their areas on defense, because usually plays zone defense, which are guarding areas. And if I see them, we had a tendency in the beginning of getting out of place and stuff. So I started telling them like, hey, if you guys stay in your place, we will play extra games. And I'm a big jokester, so I like to tell jokes to them at the end, or I'll be like, I'll give you extra jokes, you know, at the end of practice, you know. But if you're out of place, we're going to run, or we're going to do 3 push-ups, or, you know, so I use the reward, and, you know, I also will punish, you know, to a certain extent. And so, you know, I feel with them it's transactional. But with my daughters, since I coach them, it's more transformational. I think that more has to do with the fact that I have a lot more interaction with them. I try to tell them, like, when I'm coaching you, it's coach, it's not dad. You could tell me, dad, back off. You could tell me, you know, otherwise when I'm dad, you can't say that because they're real, you know. But I definitely listen to them and hear what they have to say. And I like to work with them in kind of, you know, I can be a little more critical with them, but on the other hand, you know, I like to make sure that they're telling me if I'm being too rough, or, you know, if they need help, you know, how can I help them? You know, so I do want to work with them to help them and make sure that I'm helping them do everything they want to do. But on the other hand, I'm not crushing their confidence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I feel like I work a lot more with a transformational approach there, with them, you know, because I am working hand in hand with them on top of being their coach, which was kind of hard, I guess, to a certain extent, to differentiate the coach and the dad aspect, you know. I also feel with my basketball team, I kind of have a few. I have the traits approach because I am a huge guy. I'm 6'6", you know, so, and these girls are smaller and they're looking at me like, holy you know, freaking Shrek is coaching me, you know. I was like, so, but I feel because I am the coach, they look at me and I can have, you know, referent or to a certain extent an expert power because I am an older guy. I have played, you know, so when I do talk to them, they do listen, and I feel, you know, absorb it for the most part as much as you can, you know. So that's a little bit as far as my power and you know, my leadership approaches. As far as like the culture, I feel the difference is the way they influence the way you interact with leaders is kind of like you know, like cultures with high power distance like Mexico will have an easier time adjusting to a leader who gives out and dishes out orders, where if you have a culture with a lower power distance like the United States, we tend to question things a little more. Like if a leader is telling you to do this, but you feel like, well, maybe that's not the best course of action. Somebody in Mexico is just, or in that type of culture, is going to be more receptive rather than voice their opinion like, dude, you're crazy. That's not going to work. You know? And also, you know, we're talking about male masculinity, you know, some males have a problem, you know, for masculine cultures, you know, accepting if they have a female leader, you know, because they're like, yeah, this doesn't work out for me. You know?
I've had that, not to interrupt, I'm sorry. But
no, go ahead. I probably talked too much.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I've had it's not so much. I have had males that have worked under me as, you know, as being a manager, they've worked for me, but it hasn't been so much that. I've had a harder time with more mature employees that are older than me when I try to give them direction or, you know, talk about, you know, exercise any sort of power. And really it's just more about asking, hey, you know, can you do this? Can you take out the trash? Or make sure you sell a couple pounds of coffee. I find that that's when I would get a little bit more pushback, especially when I first started as a manager. So really making sure that I, you know, asked questions and getting to, you know them a little bit better. And it's not about that legitimate power, the person is a boss, but, you know, talk about that expert power, like show them that I do know what I'm talking about and we're all in this together and it's just part of the job that needs to get done.
I think as a female leader, a lot of women go with that route as far as just, I'm just going to prove that I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about. Because you have that obstacle of, you know, right. Men that are maybe that do have a lot of experience and they're just reluctant to be open and hear anything coming from someone just younger than them. And then a female at that is a little, I think it's difficult for some of them.
Right, right.
It also could do with also age too. You know, like in your example, Sarah, like, because you are younger and you say they're older. I mean, I remember when I was in retail management, I had that issue because I, you know, got promoted and became a salary manager in a grocery store at like 22. And I had people that were there for, you know, 20 years that, you know, I had to show them not only that I was flexible and I work with them, but I also had to, you know, sometimes fight back a little bit to show them like I'm not going to back down, you know.
Right.
I'm still your boss. I may be younger than you. I give you your respect, but you still have to respect. Ultimately, I'm here and I got here for a reason.
Exactly.
You know. So.
Exactly.
I think I can relate to you with influencing other people by using like your traits. I'm also about 6'2", and so my previous experience, my experience is in accounting. So I used to work at a company of Mexican restaurants where I got a lot of exposure. And so I was brought into the Habit, which is a much newer company that's still developing across the entire organization. And so I was brought in, and with all the experience that I have, which you also talked about when you say that your daughter's peers will listen to you simply because you're older and you obviously have more experience. And I had that a lot, even though I was brought in and I didn't have the title of a leader. I saw that happening where a lot of my coworkers, because I had previous experience at my other companies, they would listen a lot, and I think a lot of it was just I had my track record of being able to help out and implementing new policies that overall helps the company. So that of the major influences that I saw, I think those were for my experience was just like proven record and I think traits. For me, it also had a lot to do. Like half of the people I work with were also women, and so a lot of time they basically look up to us for advice.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you guys as far as some of the girls at work that I work with. I'm probably one of the oldest ones. I'm 34 and these girls are like 24, 25, 27 and they think they're old. They're straight out of college. This is their first corporate job and they look at me and they're like, "Oh, how did you get here? How did you do this? How did you do that?" And I actually lean to them because they've done the education, but yet they don't have the experience that I've done so much in the past. But where I lacked was the education, and that's why I'm back at school. But so I guess we both lean to each other. We're followers in that kind of aspect, and we have a great supervisor. She's also a female, and just the way that she leads us, it's in a charismatic way, in a transformational way. She does it where I think other departments are even jealous of the way our relationship is. And from what I hear, it hasn't always been that way in the past few years. So she's just built this, I guess, this team with, and we're all female.
10 minutes.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because when they hire new people, it's, can a man do the job we do? And I mean, and we're coordinators as far as we're the middle person between the sales and production team, and so there's a lot of communication that is involved between everyone. But at the end of the day, we're always to blame if something's not done, something didn't get pushed through. So it's just maintaining, I guess, a balance for everything.
Yeah. Another thing on the culture that I wrote down on my notes would be high context cultures, like Germany, who will, people will tell you, kind of like how it is. There may be issues where you have a low context culture, like the Japanese, who are not necessarily going to come out and tell you exactly what they're thinking. They're going to be around the bush, and you're kind of supposed to read in between the lines. There could be conflict between a leader and follower if they don't understand what type of context culture they're coming from,
I agree.
Absolutely.
I noticed in my role as a leader, I always had to, figure that out too with individual managers. There's some, so I'm sure you can relate with all the different managers and how their personalities and their culture makes it very, different how you're going to approach them. I know, this one manager I can just shoot an email to and just say, this is what it is, and don't give any explanation, and she's fine with it. And then there's someone I have to give a lot of fluff to, and it'll take me a week or two to actually get that message out, because they absorb things very differently. So I had to be very aware of that. And I was, in my last position, I was thrown into the leadership position very quickly, and I wasn't even ready for, I don't think I was ready for it, but just went with it. So that was probably one of the most difficult parts for me, was learning how to influence and learning that my approach cannot be the same for every single person if I want it to be effective.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
But I will say the most fun part of that job was I got to use the reward leadership process. I paid everyone's incentives.
Oh, nice.
So I was very popular at work.
Yeah, I
I paid everyone's incentives. I did all the sales campaigns. I would, we had 30 branches, so I would just show up with a pizza party for the winning branch and balloons. So that was the fun part.
That's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
How are we on time? Is anybody keeping time?
We're good. We're 13 minutes, so are we ready to call it good?
Yeah,
Wow.
Feedback. I think we're
I think we're good.